Well, let's work with files and directories this week. So far, we've been saving data, but just in volatile memory. So when we shut our program off, well, then we lose all of our data. So we want something that's a little more non-volatile, something that will hang around uh, when we turn our program off. So we want to put this in permanent storage. We can save it onto our computer, we can save it onto a flash drive, we can save these files on a computer halfway across the world, however we want to do it. But we're going to make a file. We're going to check to see if it exists, and then we're going to look at directories too. So let's take a look at these. What I've got is I made a console application, and in my console application I called it Chapter 13 Files, and it's got our basic coding here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some coding from one of the chapters in the textbook, and let me see if I can get this plugged in here right. Okay, so I've got my code in there, and it's giving me some red squiggly lines, and it says file, and it says the name file does not exist in the current context. Well, I've got file classes and I've got directory class that I'm going to work with. The reason those aren't showing up is because they're located in the system.io. So, and I haven't included this. What I could do is I could include the entire path, which would be system.io.file. But instead of doing that each time for each statement, what I can do is I can put my using statement in, and my using statement is system.io. There it is. Okay, and when I do that, that should take away the squiggly lines. So I'm good to go. So let's see what's going to happen here. When I run this, it's going to create a string called file name, and then it's going to run the console and ask and put on the screen enter a file name. It's going to pause and wait for you to read in a line of text, and then it's going to store that text into the variable called file name. Now it's going in our file class. There are a bunch of methods that we can use. One of them is exists. So in the file class there's an exist method, and the exist method says check for the file name to see if it exists or not. Is it really there? So in an if statement, this whole thing evaluates to be either true or false. So it says if this statement, whatever it is true or false, this condition is true or false, then if it's true, we're going to execute this code block. And on this one we've got an else, so if this statement is false, then we're going to execute this code block. So if this file exists, then we're going to go ahead and do console.readline, and we're going to say the file does exist. And on the next line it says the file was created on, and under the file class there's a get creation time method, and we'll be checking that file name for that. So we'll be displaying that information and displaying the get last access time and the get last write time. Now I want to pause this output, so I want to do console.readline, and I just want to pause. Okay, let's try it out. Let's go to debug, start debugging, and it does the first thing we tell it to do, which is we told it to enter a file name, display that on the screen. So it's paused and it's waiting for us to read in a line of text. So the file that I created, and let me see if I can track it down real quick here. Yep. Here it is. The file that I created is in the C drive, and it's in a temp directory, and the name of it is test.txt. So that's the file I want to go check. I could go check a lot of different files on my computer. I just made this one to test. So that's the path that I need to find that one. So now the path is interesting because it used to be, and let me put it in this way, C colon backslash backslash TEMP. And by the way, even though on Windows you don't have to, it's probably good form to put everything in the proper case. So capital C colon and then capital T for TEMP, which was the name of the directory location where I had mine saved at. Okay. So with the Windows OS, you don't have to do this, but .txt was the name of it. So that should come up and say it exists, right? File does not exist. Okay. And let's go ahead and exit out of that. Do you see why it didn't? You may not be able to read that. I put in the name of my file was test.txt, and I put in text.tmp. So it says, you know what, that one doesn't exist. So let's try this again. Let me go to debug and start debugging. And this time, oops, let's put in C colon. Yeah, I was going to put in 2 slashes on it. TEMP. And you get the test.txt. Okay. Okay. So I got the name right, and so it found it. And it gives me the date the file was created. Now, can I go ahead and take a look at this? Let me scroll up a little bit. Okay. So it says the file was created on, was created, and the file was last access, so it gives you the date for that. So it's just showing you some methods that you can use. Get last write time, so it'll give you the date on that. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Now, let me run this again, and let me put in a breakpoint this time. Debug and start debugging. And let me put this in again. And let me put it in the wrong way. It'll still work, but TEMP, I just want to show you this. And test.txt. Okay, so I've used lowercase on these just to show you that Windows doesn't care. It says file exists, even though the case is different. Okay, so it paused at our debugging point. Now let's go check to see what our values are. Okay, so it gave us, we don't have to put in these extra slashes anymore. It used to be that you had to put in the extra slashes when you were entering in the name, but between Windows and C# and the .NET framework, when you put in these extra slashes. It used to be that it would think that, you remember escape sequences where it was the slash and then say N would get you a carriage return line feed. Well, it would think that that first slash was an escape sequence, so you'd have to put in two slashes to recognize that. But you don't need to do that anymore. You can just put in one slash for each of these, and it will automatically put in two slashes for you. So, showing you that. Okay, what else? That it? So that's the name of our file name. Notice it put in those extra slashes for us. And what else? And let's step through this. Okay. And it's looking for a string. Alright. That should do it. Not much to that. Okay. So let's run it one last time. Let me go ahead and stop debugging here. And debug. And start debugging here. Now, let me put it in one last time the way it really should be. And again, I show you that Windows doesn't really care about this, but I'm going to put in the case in the right way. Temp, and the name of it was test.txt. Okay, so file exists, date created, last access, last written. Okay, that's all there is to that. And let's try directories next. Okay, just continuing on from the last exercise. What I did is I just created a, the last exercise I just turned that into a method and put it in public static void file find. So I took everything in the from the last exercise and just put it into its own method. And that way, from the main method, here's my main method, I can just call that one and run it. So if I run debug and start debugging and put in a file name, and what was it? It was test.txt. Okay, so it still runs the same. It's just that I turned that into a method. Okay, so the reason I did that is so I could put the second one in a method, and I've already got the code here for that. Let me go copy that, and let me see if I can paste that in here. I have to make sure that I'm still inside of my class and inside of my namespace, but outside of this, say this particular method. So this one right here, that one goes to there. So I can put it right here, it looks like. And didn't give me any squiggly lines, so I think I'm good to go. Okay, so let's take a look at the code on this one. And this one is for directories. The last one was for files, and this one's going to be for directories. So let me comment out this one. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go run the second method, which is dir underscore find. And let's see what this one's going to do. It's going to create a string, and this string variable is directory name, and it's going to create an array of strings with the list of files in them. So this is a string, an array of strings. So in other words, we're going to put the list of files in that directory and store those all into that array called list of files. Okay, so we have our two variables declared. Now we're going to go into console, write, and we're going to display on the screen. By the way, why didn't we do write line here? Okay, well, you can try it out and see what it does. Okay, enter a folder. So I'm going to enter in my folder. Let's go get my trusty folder. Where did I save that at? Okay, over here somewhere. Here it is. And my folder is in the in my root directory under a folder called temp. And right now I've only got one file in there. How about if I make a couple more? Control C. And can we give these different names? Okay, I'm just putting in some more names in there so that we'll have something to play with. Okay, so we've got a folder, which is our temp folder in the root directory, and we're going to go check to see if we can find that directory to see if it exists. And then if we do, we're going to display, we're going to store this list of file names in that array and then display them. All right, I think that's what it does. Yeah, let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and try this. Well, I'm going to call this one from the main, so I want to say dir underscore find, and let's do that here. So dir, there it is, find, okay, that should do it. So I'm going to run my program. It's going to execute the main method first, and the main method is just going to go find that method called directory find. So it'll jump down here and execute this find method. So let's go to debug and start debugging that. And I want to enter my folder. In my folder, C:\temp. Whoops. I put in the wrong folder name. Okay, directory does not exist. Okay, let's try it again. Let's put in the right folder name. And let me drag that in there. C:\temp, if I can spell it. And this time it says the directory exists, and then it gives us a list of the files in our directory. Okay, so let's go take a look at the code for that. Enter a folder, enter the directory name. It waits for me to type in that C:\temp, and then it gives a list of files. The directory class has a getFiles method, and it takes the directory and it stores those into that array called list of files. So if you want to get all the files in a directory, store them into an array, store their names into an array, you can do that along with the path. And then it goes through, and in this loop it goes through this array, and as it steps through this array it just displays each of the file names. Okay, pretty basic, huh? One last thing I want to show you. I made some changes to the code here. This is on our directory. So how about if on our directory we have the same thing. We go ask to find the directory name. So you type in the directory name, and after you type in the directory name, check to see if it exists, and and after it does exist, check to see if it exists, and after it does exist, then you want to um, go get that list of file names stored into the array called list of files, and then you start stepping through each one, and you're just displaying uh, the name of each one of these files. What if you put in just a little bit of code here which says if one of those file names is equal to, I hard-coded this in, but this could be any file name that you wanted. If that one exists, how about if we delete it? So this is one of those dangerous things that you can do with files, is that you can find the directory, and then you can go find a particular file and change the name of it. You can delete it, you can rewrite it, you can do a lot of different things to it. So say you had an if statement in here which says you went to, let's go look at a different directory. How about if we look at, yeah, that'll be okay. Well, let's go try a different one. Let's go start debugging and enter a folder name. How about if I type in C:, whoops, Windows. Oh, there's a bunch of files, and we could go through, and so what we could do is in essence write a little file name that went in and maybe deleted one of these and then created a new one with our own name on it, and put some code in it. So there's just a lot of things that you can do with files and directories. That's make sure that you don't use it in the wrong way. Okay, files and directory, I'm going to stop right there.